Okay, so have you ever had this experience? You're flipping through a cookbook or a cocktail book and you see a recipe and you're like, wow, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what that would taste like. But then you look a little further through the ingredient list and you're like, oh, well, I'm probably never going to buy that. That's too expensive. And I don't know if I can even find that. So that's just probably just going to stay in the book forever. Well, that happened to me with today's cocktail. And I almost wasn't going to make it the way it says. But then I realized that what this recipe represented was taking a cocktail that was pretty simple, pretty basic, pretty well known, and basically just making it extra, taking every aspect of all the ingredients and turning each one separately up to 11 to see how over the top you can make a simple cocktail. I don't really know if this is going to work, but we're going to give it a try. So, without any further ado, I'm going to make a tie bender. Let's mix it up. Today's drink from Regarding Cocktails is what happens when even smart, successful people, such as Sasha Petraske, get caught up in the moment and don't stop to ask, why the hell am I even doing all this? Because this drink is basically a very simple, very common brunch drink, a Bellini, but extra. You see, a Bellini starts with peach puree, sweetened with simple syrup and brightened with lemon juice, but that won't do for a tie bender. You can't use peaches, you have to use white peaches. And you can't use lemons, you have to use Meyer lemons. Why? Because it's extra and more is better. I mean, I'm not saying that white peaches and Meyer lemons taste exactly the same as their more common counterparts, but I am saying that it's much ado about an end result that's hardly distinguishable. But wait, there's more. Once you have 1.5 ounces of your puree in your frozen champagne flute, you can't use any old gin. You have to use 1.5 ounces of the stupidly expensive Monkey 47 gin because, again, extra. And no Prosecco here. You must use champagne in a tie bender because, well, no, actually I agree with this one because champagne cuts down on the sweetness and makes for a better drink. But once you've added all of your extra to your glass, that is a tie bender. Definitely a different drink. What with all that extra shit and everything. Wow, I gotta think about that for a second. Okay, there is so much going on in this glass. It's kind of bewildering, to be honest. One thing positive I can say right off the bat is that the flavors have melded really well. So that's kind of surprising because I was expecting it to taste a little disjointed and like kind of individualistic rather than as a cohesive whole. That is a very interesting drink. It is not anything like a Bellini that I've had before for a couple of reasons. First of all, the Meyer lemons have this floral quality and it really kind of fits in nicely with botanicals of gin, but even more so with the champagne. I think that's where the Meyer lemon flavor really shines, which surprises me, but tasting it now in the glass, I know what the champagne tastes like and I can smell the lemon flavor. And they've kind of become one in this really interesting, really tasty way. So I like that. As far as the Monkey 47 itself, I feel like it's getting lost. I'm gonna have to pour a little bit and taste it by itself because now I need to know what it's doing in here. There we go, just a splash. I like the gin, but it's interesting. It doesn't have that juniper flavor that I look for. It's rounded off by something, and I don't know what it is. There's too many botanicals in here for a mere mortal like me to understand the interplay just off of tasting it and say, well, this botanical is what's making the juniper taste like that, and this is boosting this and pushing that around. I don't know. It's really interesting. I think that it would make a great gin and tonic. It would be really interesting in that context, and maybe also in a martini. I could see it like that. But this is definitely not going to be a go-to gin of mine, even if it was, like $20 for this bottle instead of what I actually paid for it. It still wouldn't be my go-to. So, all right, now coming back to the tie bender, it tastes a heck of a lot sweeter now that I've gone from straight gin to this, which brings me to one of the big differences between this and Bellinis that I've had in the past. I've usually had them with Prosecco, which has been sweeter than the dry champagne I used today. If I was gonna do this again, well, I wouldn't. I would use yellow peaches because I think they're sweeter and have more going on, and I would never buy this again. Yeah. Now, to be fair, I'm not going to act like I don't have a bias. I think anyone who acts like they don't have a bias is just foolish. But I have more of a negative bias towards that gin than a positive bias. A lot of people get sort of wowed by expensive things. I tend to get turned off by expensive things. I don't appreciate it as much because I feel like I'm wasting money on it. Now, did I waste money on that? No, because it is actually good. It's just not good enough for the price that I think I would buy it again. But it will be really, really fun to share that with friends and family. On special occasions, pull it out and say, here, have a little bit of this. And, the money factor be damned. It's definitely interesting. It's definitely an interesting spirit to taste. So, there's definitely some value there. It's just not value that I would find, not value that I would seek out all the time. It's definitely not what I'll be drinking on my anniversary. Cheers.